This video is about the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1986 in the United States. This is the first episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Una Merkel. She was born in December 1933 and she died in January 1986. Her age was 82 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. Una Merkel was an American stage, film, radio and television actress. Merkel was born in Kentucky and acted on stage in New York in the 1920s. She went to Hollywood in 1930 and became a popular film actress. Two of her best-known performances are in the films 42nd Street and Death Rides Again. She won a Tony Award in 1956 and was nominated for an Oscar in 1961. Because of her strong resemblance to actress Lillian Gish, Merkel was offered a part as Gish's younger sister in a silent film called World Shadows. However, the funding for the film dried up and it was never completed. Merkel went on to appear in a few silent movies, several of them for the Lee Bradford Corporation. She also appeared in the two reels Love's Old Sweet Song in 1923, which was made by Lee DeForest, in his phono film Sound on Film Process, and starred Louis Wolheim and Helen Ware. Not making much of a mark in films, Merkel turned her attention to the theater and found work in several important plays on Broadway. Her biggest triumph was in Coquette in 1927, which starred her idol Helen Hayes. Donna Reed. She was born in January 1921 and she died in January 1986. Her age was 64 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was pancreatic cancer. Donna Reed was an American actress. Her career spanned more than 40 years, with performances in more than 40 films. She is well known for her portrayal of Mary Hatch Bailey in Frank Capra's fantasy holiday film It's a Wonderful Life in 1946. Reed won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Fred Zinnemann's war drama film From Here to Eternity in 1953. Reed is also known for her work in television, notably as Donna Stone, a middle-class American mother and housewife in the sitcom The Donna Reed Show from 1958 to 1966, whose character was more assertive and complex than most other television mothers of the era. She received numerous Emmy Award nominations for this role and the Golden Globe Award for Best Television Star in 1963. Later in her career, Reed replaced Barbara Bel Geddes as Miss Ellie Ewing Farlow in the 1984 to 1985 season of the television melodrama Dallas. She successfully sued the production company for breach of contract when she was abruptly fired upon Bel Geddes' decision to return to the show. Herbert W. Armstrong. He was born in July 1892 and he died in January 1986. His age was 93 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Herbert W. Armstrong was an American evangelist who founded the Worldwide Church of God, an early pioneer of radio and television evangelism. Armstrong preached what he claimed was a comprehensive combination of doctrines in the entire Bible, in the light of New Covenant scriptures, which he maintained to be the restored true gospel. These doctrines and teachings have been referred to as Armstrongism by non-adherents. Armstrong's teachings required observance of parts of the Mosaic Law, including Seventh-day Sabbath, dietary prohibitions, and the covenant law holidays. He also proclaimed that behind contemporary world events loom various biblical prophecies interpreted in light of the British Israelism. As founder and head of the Ambassador International Cultural Foundation, Armstrong and his advisors met with heads of governments in various nations, for which he described himself as an ambassador without portfolio for world peace. Willard Van Dyke. He was born in December 1906 and he died in January 1986. His age was 79 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Willard Van Dyke was an American filmmaker, photographer, arts administrator, teacher, and former director of the film department at the Museum of Modern Art. In 1928, he went to see photographic exhibition at the Palace of Legion of Honor in San Francisco, where he not only saw Edward Weston's work but met him. It was a life-changing experience. In 1928, he apprenticed with Edward Weston and by 1932 co-founded group F-64 with Imogen Cunningham, Insel, Adams, and Weston. The group's approach emphasized both sharp and deep focus, sometimes called straight photography, in contrast with painterly approach of many other photographers. In April 1934, the De Young Museum exhibited 70 photos taken by Wayne Dyke of public works of art project artworks. In 1935, Wayne Dyke moved to New York City and began making documentary films. He served as a cameraman on the river in 1938, directed by Per Lawrence. He also worked with NYKINO, the film organization that involved Paul Strand, Ralph Steiner, and Henry Cartier-Bresson. His film The City in 1939 with Steiner ran for 2 years at the New York World's Fair of 1939. Gordon MacRae, he was born in March 1921 and he died in January 1986. His age was 64 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer and pneumonia. Gordon MacRae was an American actor, singer, and television and radio host. He appeared in the film versions of two Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, Oklahoma in 1955 and Carousel in 1956, and played the leading man opposite Doris Day in On Moon Knight Bay in 1951 and sequel By the Night of the Silvery Moon in 1953. MacRae was a baritone. Winning a contest enabled him to sing at the 1939 New York World's Fair with the Harry James and Les Brown orchestras. He made his Broadway debut in 1942, acquiring his first recording contract soon afterwards. Many of his recordings were made with Joe Stafford. On the radio in 1945, his talents were showcased on The Gordon MacRae Show on the CBS network in collaboration with the conductor Archie Blair. In 1946, his 15-minute variety show Skyline Roof also featured emerging musical talent, including the accordionist John Serry Sr. MacRae signed a contract with Warner Brothers in 1947. In 1948, he appeared in his first film, The Big Punch, a drama about boxing. He followed this with a film noir with Virginia Mayo, Backfire, made in 1948 and released in 1950. L. Ron Hubbard. He was born in March 1911 and he died in January 1986. His age was 74 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. L. Ron Hubbard was an American author and the founder of Scientology, a prolific writer of pulp science fiction and fantasy novels. In his early career, in 1950, he authored Dianetics, the modern science of mental health, and established organizations to promote and practice Dianetics techniques. Hubbard created Scientology in 1952 after losing the intellectual rights to his literature on Dianetics in bankruptcy. He would lead the Church of Scientology, variously described as a cult, a new religious movement, or a business, until his death in 1986. Born in Tilden, Nebraska in 1911, Hubbard spent much of his childhood in Helena, Montana, while his father was posted to the United States Naval Base on Guam in the late 1920s. Hubbard traveled to Asia and the South Pacific. In 1930, Hubbard enrolled at George Washington University to study civil engineering but dropped out in his second year. He began his career as an author of pulp fiction and married Margaret Grubb, who shared his interest in aviation. Hubbard was an officer in the Navy during the Second World War, where he briefly commanded 2 ships but was removed from command both times. Lily Palmer. She was born in May 1914 and she died in May 1986. Her age was 71 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was abdominal cancer. Lily Palmer was a German actress and writer. After beginning her career in British films in the 1930s, she would later transition to major Hollywood productions, earning a Golden Globe Award nomination for her performances in But Not For Me in 1959. Other notable roles include in the comedy The Pleasure of His Company in 1961, the Spanish horror film The House That Screamed in 1969, and in miniseries Peter the Great in 1986, which earned her another Golden Globe Award nomination. For her career in European films, Palmer won the Volpi Club and Deutsche Film Prize 3 times. In France, she appeared in an operetta at Moulin Rouge. Then to London, where she began her film career. She made her screen debut in Crime Unlimited in 1935 and appeared in numerous British films for the next decade. She married British actor Rex Harrison on 25th January 1943 and traveled with him to Hollywood in 1945. She signed with Warner Brothers and appeared in several films, notably Cloak and Dagger in 1946 and Body and Soul in 1947. She periodically appeared in stage plays as well as hosting her own television series in 1951. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.